What's up, traders? This is Vee Trades, and today I will be doing a technical analysis breakdown for MicroStrategy Incorporated with the ticker symbol MSTR. I will first be going over what I see on the daily chart and finish the video off with the weekly chart. This video is for entertainment purposes only. Please trade at your own risk. So let's take a look at MicroStrategy Incorporated. They hold about 386,700 Bitcoins in their balance sheet, and the total value today is about $35 billion. And the percentage of the supply is about 1.8. So they almost own 2% of the total supply of Bitcoin, which is extremely impressive because this is just a single company, and you haven't even seen Microsoft or Apple or Nvidia, start buying Bitcoin either, and not even countries, right? Except El Salvador and maybe a couple other ones, but you haven't seen the big players yet. A lot of the small players are in the market, so very impressive. MicroStrategy own 2% of the total supply. And again, 21 million, some of it's never even going to move because people lost the keys to the holdings. So it could be more like roughly 17 or 18 million that would be only in circulation. So again, very impressive for MicroStrategy on that aspect. But either way, the market still doesn't care, right, in the short term because the price is dropping 12% today. And we could see a little bit more downside tomorrow. Let's take a look at the intraday and see what happened. So you can see that market opened up right about there, and it started trading down just shortly after, and it started closing sideways towards the end. So this does look like a measure move is almost reached or on the way of being reached. This is all one large impulse, and then we can clone that to get the second large impulse target, and that target is right around the 311 target. So that's where I was expecting MicroStrategy to go. It's still headed in that direction. Why? Because it's still below this bearish trend line. So this bearish trend line is still in play. Bears are still having the dominance in the short term, and it looks like Bitcoin as well can be dropping in the near term as well. So overall, it looks pretty bearish in the short term. Very short term. I'm not talking about the next couple of weeks, couple of months. I don't think it's going to continue dropping that long. I think once it reaches this target, it can find support, potentially reverse. If it doesn't, the next target would be at potentially the 184 level. So we'll see if we can get that low, but that is a target to keep in mind. So here's a look at the daily chart, just zoomed out. Let's draw the bullish trend line off of the swing lows. You can see that the first bullish trend line, or the first angle of attack. This was the second angle of attack, and then we saw the third angle of attack by the bulls. So you see that the trend got exponentially higher, and we just had a blow off top for this trend right here in play. So still expecting higher prices. This is all one large leg right over here. This looks like the second leg, and price did reset and exceed it. So we're still on our way to make another measurement target. This is all one leg right here, and this is the second leg, and that's targeting right around that $1,500 level. So again, I'm expecting the $1,500 level to be reached sometime, I would say early next year, maybe in the summertime. And then I do have a longer term target after that as well. But in the meantime, I expect the pullback to continue, maybe toward the trend line. That's where the support is at. You can see that if I go and move the arrows, and we keep that 311, 312 level there, that coincides with that trend line, this third angle of attack trend line. So you see that it slopes right where price can bottom off of. So that's not a coincidence at all that this meets at that inflection point. So we'll see what happens. Let's see if we can find support from there. There's a little gap that can be filled as well, the 275 level. Not all gaps can be filled. Just like over here in the past, these gaps are not filled, and most likely they might never be filled. So there's even a gap right over here at $16. So I mean, MicroStrategy is probably never going to get there again. Maybe, we never know, but very high probability it won't. And there's a gap right there. So not all gaps are filled. A lot of times when a trend is when a stock is trending down and then it reverses, those gaps get filled. Why? Because generally, stocks go from the bottom left side of the chart to the upper right side of the chart. So generally, trends higher and it makes new all-time highs. So it's going to be filling in the gaps created by the shorts. But in some cases, the gaps created by the longs aren't always filled. So that's all I have on the daily chart. This is completely natural. Price was overextended. It was due for a pullback. We're getting the pullback. Pullbacks are good for people who want to continue to add into their position and also start a new position if you don't already have one, because the trend is still very bullish. I'm expecting higher prices. In the long term, let me go and clone this trend line right here. So we did see a breakout of the top of that trend line, but again, I don't think it's going to lead to a big crash. As right now, it's looking still pretty strong. But like I said before, if it doesn't stop at this first trend line, then it can potentially stop at the second trend line, and that's sub 200. So we'll see if it gets that low. That's all I have for MicroStrategy on the daily chart. I think I covered everything. We covered the short-term trend line. We covered that exhaustion. We covered the pullback. It has still room to the downside at the lower $300 level, 310. Price reached the 338, so it's not that far away from that 310 target. And we'll see if that can reverse price. If not, we can start looking at targets at lower prices. So here's a look at the weekly chart. And why do I look at all the price action? Well, because this still has some sort of influence on the current price action, right? Yeah, it's a different company than it was 20 years ago, more than 20 years ago, but that doesn't matter, right? The technicals still matter at this level, right? This was resistance, so that means it can be resistance in the future. We did break through it, but looks like price is trying to come back to that level to test it for some sort of support. So we'll see if we can stay above that level. But overall, on the weekly chart, a little bit overextended from that EMA. You can see that we got a little bit too far. A lot of times you'll see price snap back to it. That's exactly what's happening right now. So it's in a pullback phase. There's a gap that can be filled at the 270 level. And if those don't reverse price, then the next target would be sub 200. And most likely that will reverse price because overall this is still a very strong uptrend. And Bitcoin most likely has a lot of room left to the upside. So if Bitcoin doubles, I'm expecting MicroStrategy to at least triple or quadruple. So Bitcoin most likely will double. So overall, very bullish long term for MicroStrategy. Short term is the pullback. So that's a blessing in disguise for most people. And I would enjoy it while it lasts because it won't last long. So all I have for MicroStrategy on the daily weekly charts. Most likely I'll give you guys an update tomorrow. This is Vee Trades and thank you for your time.